Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto, guys. We go live 9:30 Eastern every single weekday, Monday through Friday, to bring you the latest Bitcoin technical, fundamental, and on-chain analysis to keep you up to date, informed, and educated on what the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets are doing. As you know, Bitcoin has rallied a little bit over just the last couple of days, currently in a bull flag, sitting up here at $40,451 at the moment. In this video, we're going to be discussing some of the long-term major bullish factors that are going into the price of Bitcoin. And if you're wondering why is Bitcoin trading sideways, we're going to address that briefly. But the main thing we're going to talk about in this stream are some major bullish key metrics that are showing us that in the next several years, when you zoom out, Bitcoin's more bullish than ever. Now, there might be short-term FUD. We have conflict in Europe. We have uncertainty about what interest rates are going to do to the stock market, the real estate market, and the cryptocurrency markets. There is short-term FUD, there is short-term fear, and there is short-term doubt. However, the long-term fundamentals are continuing to improve, and we're going to talk about some of those, including hash rate and regulatory clarity. And we have a very interesting story today coming out from the U.S. Treasury, some of the things that they have said about whether or not Bitcoin is being used in illicit activity. Huge update that absolutely silences the critics and naysayers on one of the big points that they've been making about Bitcoin for the last 10 years. Really big deal. We're going to talk about all of that and more. Today, I am joined not by Tim, but instead I am joined by Kelly. How are you doing, Kelly?
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
I am back from Tokyo, and as everybody in the office knows, I had a bit of a struggle with some jet lag this morning, and I had an epic battle with my alarm clock, and I'm here on set, so I'm happy to be here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about with you went through all of it, so let's just dive right on into it, baby. I'm just happy to be back here with everybody.
Heck yeah. Well, by the way, guys, I am drinking some coffee from, where is it, Zach? Thailand, right?
That is Kwai coffee that I did a little pour over today. So it's some good stuff,
That's
guys.
some good coffee.
If you want good Thai coffee, go to Kwai. It's super small, but it's nice.
That's some good coffee. I'm drinking Thai coffee from a mug that is from Life for the Innocent, which I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out to. We don't talk about it a lot on camera because we don't want to come on camera and act like we're trying to brag and show off. We literally don't talk about this much. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm literally looking at the mug we received right now. We're actually ministry partners with a ministry called Life for the Innocent. They work with human trafficking and helping children out of that, and we're actually a partner with them. Just so you guys know, this is something we don't brag about. We don't talk about this a lot because we don't want to come off it with the wrong spirit, as if like, oh, look at us, we're so cool. We don't want to do that. We try and keep this to ourselves, but I do want to share, just for the sake of showing you where our hearts are. 10% of the profits of this company every single quarter go towards ministry activity that are helping people. So we have two ministry partners. Life for the Innocent is one. We believe very firmly in their mission, so check them out. LFTI, you can find them. Didn't even plan to bring that up, but I figured I would. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take a look at some headlines, do a little bit of a market pulse. Guys, there's a lot going on in Bitcoin right now. It might not seem like it, but the cryptocurrency market is probably about 10 times larger than it was just a couple of years ago. When I got into Bitcoin in 2017, it was much, much, much smaller. The cryptocurrency space has grown substantially, and through that growth, it means that a lot of things that used to be headline massive breaking news are now on page 11 of the metaphorical newspaper, and we want to talk about some of those. One of those big things that we're going to be discussing today are the miners. Miners that hodl the most Bitcoin are relentlessly expanding. We're going to talk about this chart a little bit later. Publicly listed Bitcoin miners and the hash rate that they have right now and the hash rate that they want to have by the end of 2022. We're going to dive into this more, talk about hash rate. We're going to look over at the total hash rate. It's all-time high, and we're going to talk about the expansion that's going on there. But the point here that you can see is that they are working very hard to expand. Now, there is also another thing that I want to bring to your attention. It is this article that just went up on Bitcoin Magazine 2 days ago on March 16th. I missed this, but I just had it tweeted at me today. By the way, guys, if you tweet something at us, we will probably see it and we will probably use it. So if you go over to my Twitter, you can see John Van Bell, who may or may not be watching right now, actually said, hey, Jebb, did you see this? And I said, no, I didn't see that. Thank you very much. That's going in Coffee and Crypto. This article is the U.S. Treasury coming out and saying Bitcoin is not used for money laundering. It is not being used for, I can't say that word on YouTube, but you can read it right there, and it is not being used for bad, more or less. That basically closes the book on, is Bitcoin predominantly used for illicit activity? No, it's not. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later and why that is such a big deal for us to clarify, and why the U.S. Treasury is the foremost expert opinion on the subject. So anyone who ever tells you that Bitcoin is predominantly used for illicit activity needs to go and do their research, because they are absolutely factually wrong. We can just go ahead and make that much very clear. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap. Give it a little refresh so we know we have the latest. We can see Bitcoin is down 1.5% in the last 24 hours. Ethereum down 0.32%. The cryptocurrency prices are not moving very much in the short term. However, the cryptocurrency fundamentals are moving quite a lot in the long term. That's what we're talking about today. The fundamentals of Bitcoin are growing and growing and growing. We're going to talk about something that I call IVG later. I'm not even going to tell you what it stands for yet, but you're going to want to know this concept because it is a concept that is going to give you much more clarity, much more certainty about what Bitcoin is doing, where Bitcoin is going, and why Bitcoin is doing what it's doing. So we're going to talk about all of that, but let's first see what the alts are doing. In the last 24 hours, we got ApeCoin up to 117%. This is ridiculous. ApeCoin came out of nowhere. This is a project tied to the Bored Ape Yacht Club. It is currently sitting at a $4 billion market capitalization, rank number 33. It has done that in the span of just a couple of days. To be honest with you, I do believe that this is record-breaking rallies. $4 billion, $0 to $4 billion in market cap in no time whatsoever. We may even end up making a video about this. You guys voted on Twitter. 70% of you said that you don't want to hear more about NFTs, so I'm not quite sure if we're going to do anything with Ape, but we will potentially end up looking at that. Drop a 1 in chat if you'd like to hear more about that gainer. Now, we're also going to see that Waves, Mina, 1inch Network, Helium's a good project, Kusama, Aave, CeeLo, some of these projects are up. They're not doing insanely well, but they are up a little bit. Mina up about 16%. On the losers, we got PancakeSwap down 16%, Thorchain down. Now, Thorchain is one of these projects that almost always seems to be in the biggest gainers or losers, which tells me that it has a lot of volatility, which tells me that there's trading opportunity there. Kelly, just briefly, would you agree with that? If you see a cryptocurrency that's up a lot and down a lot, if there's some level of predictability and stability in the fundamentals, is that potentially an altcoin that you could look to trade because it's very volatile?
Well, it depends. If it's a very super small micro cap or something like that, and the price is going all over the place, I honestly don't even look. It's noise to me until there's some sort of fundamental shift and you know, a regularity of a trend. Until that point, then it's kind of chop, and you're trading ether. I don't mean ether like Ethereum, but like you're trading like the thin air essentially. So I like to find something that once it starts to have some sort of trend, a defined trend, and you know, a decent amount of volume. Volume's huge. If there's not a lot of volume traded on something at all, then the chop is also irrelevant because at that point people are only speculating on the project entirety, you know. So yeah, that's how I think about it.
Sounds good. Well, guys, make sure you hit that like button. We got almost 1,000 people watching. We just started. Hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes here in the next couple of minutes. Why should you do that? Well, one, because it makes me feel better, and I like seeing the like button go up because it means you guys like the video, or you're just, you know, being obedient. But anyway, if you do hit that like button, the actual reason that we ask for you to do that is because it helps us boost this video in the YouTube algorithm. I don't know what you think, but I personally believe what we are sharing is very valuable insight and content, and I do think that we're able to help you guys understand what Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are doing so that you can go and achieve that financial sovereignty. So when you hit the like button, it helps us to be promoted in the YouTube algorithm so we can get our message out there to more people. So what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to look at a couple of these other cryptocurrencies. We got Decred down a little bit, the Secret down a little bit, Basic Attention Token down a little bit, Avalanche down a little bit, Sand, Solana down. Now, there's one final thing I want to show you over on CoinMarketCap. It is a level of resistance that we've been contending with for the last little while. And it would actually be $2 trillion market cap. It can be very tempting to only look at the price action charts. And that's actually why, if you've noticed, we actually are spending a little bit less time on price action charts more recently than we have been in the past. And the reason is because, one, on-chain and fundamentals are driving this market right now. So we have to keep our attention on what actually is driving the market. It's not that price action and technicals don't matter. It's that right now, the price action and the technicals are taking a little bit of a backseat because really the fundamentals, as far as interest rates, inflation, the oil market, the economy, the unemployment, the conflict in Europe, all these things are really driving the market. Retail and institutional adoption from the traditional ecosystem, that is what's driving the price action of Bitcoin right now. So that's why we're focusing a lot on that. But there are also other places you can do technical analysis besides the price action chart. A good example is the market capitalization chart. As you can see right here, ever since we used it as support back in January, Bitcoin has actually been using $2 trillion total market cap. Excuse me, the cryptocurrency markets have been using $2 trillion market cap as a level of resistance. And I can't draw a line on this chart the same way I could if it was over on TradingView. In fact, I believe you can type in crypto market cap here and it'll show you crypto total market capitalization calculated by TradingView. Boom, there we go. Actually, I can bring the chart up. You can see that we have been using $2 trillion as a level of resistance roughly for the last little while. In fact, we were using it as a level of support back here in the beginning of January. We've been using as resistance, and you look at crypto total market capitalization, and you actually see that it's in a symmetrical triangle pattern right now that could very well start to break out. And this is actually going to lead us into our technical analysis segment. So I want to start by looking at crypto total market cap, do a little bit of analysis on that because I don't think you may have seen that very often, and then we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Now, if you zoom out and you're not as intimately familiar with the chart as I am, because I look at this every single day, you might look at this chart and say, oh, this is Bitcoin's chart. No, actually, this is not Bitcoin's chart. That is Bitcoin's chart right there. It looks similar, but it's not. Let me go ahead and pull that back up. I need to go ahead and bookmark this, actually. It's actually not Bitcoin's market cap. It is actually the total market capitalization of Bitcoin. And you can do technical analysis on this, and it is important. This symmetrical triangle pattern is actually very similar to Bitcoin's, and we're going to talk about that. But we could end up seeing a breakout here relatively soon because we are seeing a lot of constriction. The volatility in cryptocurrency is going down substantially. We can bring up Bollinger Bands to prove that. If you zoom out to the 3-daily chart, you can see that we have been constricting quite a bit. The Bollinger Bands are constricting a whole heck of a lot. We've been using this 23-day simple moving average here as resistance as well. If we start breaking above that, breaking above this downtrending level of resistance, that's going to be great, and that could mean and indicate that the market is going to start moving in a northerly direction. Now, we're about to start talking about Bitcoin's chart rather than just total market cap chart, but before I do, Kelly, really quick, I just want to hear your opinion on the total market capitalization chart in itself. Is it something that we should be paying attention to? Is it something that gets enough attention that technical analysis on it actually works? And if so, what are you seeing on it?
Yeah, I think it works in definitely in tandem. It's one of those things as we talk about. It's called having an edge. You know, so you don't want to only look at just the price. You want to look at, of course, we're looking at price charts when we're looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the coins that are in our portfolio, right? But looking at the market cap also takes into account the expansion of the inflation of that project. And now people say, well, Bitcoin's non-inflatable. Well, technically, right now it is. It's just very slow as compared to how fast. Especially how fast stuff goes into a liquid supply, cold storage and that sort of thing. But I don't typically do a lot of, I don't do short-term price action sort of, I don't dig into it too much. Like for instance, on a 4-hour or 8-hour, I would typically look at it on like a daily, sometimes a 2-day or a 3-day, and just get the general sort of shape and structure of what's going on with the market cap, charting, what's going on in trading view with the market cap. But it's definitely good to have in tandem because like I said, it helps you take into account the changing shape of the Bitcoin network.
Absolutely, and I think it's important that you take note of the fact that Bitcoin and the total market capitalization and the altcoins, move in tandem, but they don't move exactly the same. So you are going to see a little bit of difference there. And I think it's also important that we open our minds and realize that there's more than just the Bitcoin chart. We talk about the Bitcoin chart a lot, and we're about to, but we also don't want to get pigeonholed and tunnel visioned into thinking that that's the only thing that matters, because we can easily do that just by habit. Just because we look at the Bitcoin chart every day, we can start to think, oh, well, it's the only thing that matters. Accidentally. For example, what I'm about to do right now is I'm going to take it off the log chart and show you there's a difference here. You're going to see different trend lines. All the trend lines are broken now. All the flat levels of support and resistance are the same. All the trend lines are for the most part broken because I went off the log chart. Very simple change, could have profound impacts. There have been many times where I've changed the kind of chart I'm looking at, and it has completely changed my perspective on Bitcoin. So just remember, this might even be something you want to put in like a checklist for when you're doing your analysis, or in a mental checklist. Just say, hey, I'm going to go through everything. I'm going to turn on and then turn off every indicator, turn on, turn off every type of chart. Look at this, look at that. Checklists are very helpful for cryptocurrency, and those are one of the things that you can implement to help yourselves in your analysis. So what I want to do now, we're going to go ahead and look at some short-term price action, because for once, there's actually something to talk about. For the last week, there hasn't really been a whole lot. Bitcoin between the 10th of March and the 16th of March traded sideways. It looked like an EKG. It was moving a little bit, but not a whole lot. Now we at least have something that we can do analysis on over on the technicals, and that is this rally that we saw over the last 2 days. Now, it started with a small pump here to $40,000, and if we look back to about 1,600 hours on March the 14th, we can actually see that what happened there was, if I remember correctly, and Kelly can correct me on this if I'm wrong, I believe there was a liquidation event, and you can see it happening right in here. It's hard to tell, but it's this one right here. We saw about $18 million in shorts liquidated. That led to a small bump in the price. You can see in the tooltip right here, Bitcoin jumped about $800 as a result of that. But then quickly thereafter, the longs got liquidated. So it actually went in the exact opposite direction. We saw a short squeeze followed immediately by a long squeeze. What that tells me is that Bitcoin is very much in a rock solid range, and that tells me that the order books at this time probably looked a little something like this. They were very narrow, the spread was very small, and the order books were very steep. So if you try to move in one direction, boom, you're going to get liquidated and bought up. If you try to move in the other direction, boom, you're going to get liquidated and bought up. And that's exactly how you end up with a market that's trading sideways, where the order books get super constricted, there's no volatility, and then you get locked into it because everybody has really, really close buy and sell orders. You started a rally because there was a short squeeze, and then you got too far into that territory, and then there was a long squeeze that counteracted it. Now, the good news is, whenever you get into that territory, eventually you are going to break in one direction, and right now we're breaking in the bullish direction. That is a good sign, and part of the thing that helped with that is that there was an even bigger short squeeze 3 days ago, which we reported on here on this channel. We saw $80 million in shorts getting liquidated. At the same time, we saw $36 million in longs getting liquidated. So in just an instant, we saw over $100 million in longs getting liquidated within a 4-hour period. There's been a lot of short liquidations compared to long liquidations. You can see right here, these red bars show you all the short liquidations. We've seen 24 million in 4 hours, 13 million in the same time, 28 million in the same time, 19 million in the same time, 24 million in the same time. So compared to, you know, back at the beginning of March, we were seeing all these long liquidations. Now we're starting to see more short liquidations, and that's starting to tell me that the bulls might be trying to take back the momentum. This is a very preliminary sign, though, so don't put too much stock in this, or don't put too much crypto in this, I suppose we could say. It is not to say that the bulls are in charge now, but it is to say that the winds seem to be shifting just a little bit. This could be the very beginning of a trend change. And one thing that also we should mention is that by doing that, we saw this massive scam wick up here to 41,800. It crashed right back down to where we started at 39. That did, however, lead us to the upside, because Tim actually mentioned this yesterday. He said, where you wick, you will stick. And he mentioned that before we rallied up here. Yesterday, we did actually rally up here around 4 p.m. up to $41,500. Ever since then, we've been in a short-term downtrend. I'm sorry, that was the day before yesterday. We rallied up here to $41,500. We've been in a small downtrend. That is forming a bull flag, and that bull flag coincidentally has a price target of almost 44K, which would break us above some very crucial resistance levels, such as this one right here, while we've also broken above this downtrending level of resistance right here. So, Kelly, I know you look at liquidations because, you know, you're a trader, you have been for a long time. What do you make of the fact that liquidations seem to be shifting? It's a very slight trend, but they seem to be shifting away from liquidating longs to liquidating shorts. Is there anything significant in that? Is this accumulation that we're in a sign that we're, you know, slowly shifting from shorting to longing? What's going on here?
Well, this is a critical sort of question, right? So when you're especially when you're trading, when you're investing, it can still be heart-wrenching when you see the price jumping around, but when you're trading, you have a percentage of your portfolio on the line in each trade, right? So what you really want to do is you want to see this stuff that, like you just said, that's the winds are starting to shift to where instead of longs getting liquidated, meaning that everybody's being hyped about longs and they get shorted and it gets brought back down. Now it's going the opposite direction. Now everybody's getting, all the bears are now, they're going to start to get exhausted because they keep trying to short and they keep getting liquidated out. So that's a huge thing, and that's going to tie perfectly in with what we're going to be talking about here in a minute or two, a couple minutes. We're talking about the hash rate and some other on-chain metrics and all this stuff. And price action, all these things, especially when you're trading, it's important to take a huge, like a fully encompassing picture of confluence across the entire network of not just what the price action is doing. That's why I tell people a lot of times, you don't trade just on price. The price action is actually somewhat irrelevant. The patterns, those are relevant. The number value that it's at, how much it dropped, how much it went up, that's not relevant. You want to look at all the things that we talk about here: the liquidation data, the on-chain metrics, the chart formations. All these things paint a full picture, and that gives you a clear, confident direction of what you want to do. And right now, it's starting to pick up with all the things that the on-chain data has been saying for 6 months now, and now it's starting to flip over into the chart. So I'm looking forward to it for these patterns to break out and us not being consolidation any longer.
Yeah, for real, absolutely.
I'm ready.
Come on, Let's get some movement, Bitcoin. No, for real though. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, because The fact is Bitcoin's in consolidation, and that can be painful. We've talked about this on almost every single show recently. It can be painful when Bitcoin is trading sideways. As Kelly just said, part of your portfolio is on the line. In fact, as far as that's concerned, your entire portfolio is on the line with Bitcoin moving sideways. It can be very, as you said, heart-wrenching. Here's the thing, though. That's a good thing. I want it to be heart-wrenching. I don't want it to be painful, but it is going to be good for you because, you know, Kelly, how did you learn the most valuable lesson that you ever learned in technical analysis? How did you learn the most valuable lesson that you ever learned in trading? How did you learn it?
Well, I got way too sure of myself trading. And I thought, well, if I've won these 100 trades, basically 98 out of 100 trades in a row, I'm a great trader. So then I started leverage trading. And I think the third leverage trade, I lost about $70,000. And it was about the only $70,000 that I had of that. And this is years ago. Don't worry. This wasn't like last week. But I tell you what, man, it made me understand all the different things you see about like on Black Sunday or Black Friday, whatever, 1929, with people jumping out windows because the market crashed. Yeah. I never thought that, but I remember being so disappointed in myself and in life and everything. But it taught me, you know, I took a step back and I paper traded it. If you don't know what paper trading is, I recommend every single person that watches this show do it because it helps you practice on a real exchange trading, but with fake money. So you can, but you're going through the entire processes. And, you know, it made me take a seat back for about almost a year and paper trade and then slowly work my way into spot. And then I will do leverage trades still, but very, 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 very few and far between. And only when I'm in a defined trend. I've done 0 leverage trades since probably March of last year before the rounding top happened, because when the rounding top happened, we weren't in a clearly defined trend anymore. That's a trend reversal. Mm-hmm. So all these things play into your trading portfolio, understanding, you know, if you check into CT2A or if you anything to learn patterns and trends, it will do you such a favor.
Yeah, it absolutely really will. And actually, Freedom Advocate just asked a question for you that I'm going to repeat here in about 5 minutes when we go into community discussion. But I just want to kind of zoom out and give you a reminder of some of the things that we need to know before we go into our next segment. Because in the next segment, we're going to talk about some of the major bullish factors that are going to propel Bitcoin to the upside in the long term. So I need to prepare you for that segment. So let's go ahead and do that. Got to butter you up. Got to get you ready. Got to marinate you. Got to make sure that you're going to understand this, that you got the right context, because it's very difficult sometimes to understand what I'm about to say because we don't have perspective. So let's get some perspective. Here's some perspective for you. In between the dates of roughly the 25th of November 2013 and the 5th of January 2015, Bitcoin lost 88% of its value in the span of 406 days. Pretty bad. In between the dates of about June 6, 2011 and November 21st, 2011, Bitcoin lost 93% of its value in the span of 168 days. In between the dates of December 17th, which I was actually here for this one, and the date of about December 3rd, about a year later, December 18th, 17th, 16th, 2017, and December 3rd, 2018, Bitcoin lost 85% of its value in 350 days. Over here, during the beginning of the pandemic, Bitcoin, gotta go back down to the daily chart because it happened so fast, in this time frame, on the 12th of March, 2020, Bitcoin lost 51% of its value in one day. How about this? Over here on the 24th of September, 2019, Bitcoin lost 12% of its value in one day. In the span of a week, it lost 25% of its value between the 20th of September and the 26th of September. Point number one, Bitcoin can lose over 90% of its value, and it absolutely not matter as far as the fundamentals are concerned. Because the thing you got to remember is that the fundamentals drive price, not the other way around. That's not true. The price driving fundamentals is not true. Think about it like this. Let's say you got some red dye and you put it in a stream. You put it in a, like moving water. Where does that go? Does it go downstream, or is there literally any way whatsoever that it can go upstream? Is there any way for you to put red dye in a stream and for it to move upstream? Is there? No, there's not. It can only go one way. It's basic physics. It moves with the flow of the current. You can't go against the current unless you put energy into it because of the second law of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. If you want to get it further upstream, then you have to put energy into the system to go and do that. The point is that when you put red dye in the stream, it goes downstream. It's the exact same thing in cryptocurrency. When you do something in the fundamentals, it drives the price action. It's one-way street. It's not a two-way street. Time moves forward. It does not move backwards, right? You're not, doing, what was that movie where the guy aged backwards? That's not real. That doesn't happen.
Benjamin Button.
Benjamin Button, thank you. The Curious Tale of Benjamin Button, or whatever the movie is. Haven't actually seen the movie, but I know the story. So that is the way that it works in crypto. It moves one way. So those are the two concepts I need you to know. One, Bitcoin can lose over 90% of its value and have absolutely no effect on the fundamentals. Why? Because point number two, the fundamentals drive the price action, not the other way around. So we're about to talk about some fundamentals. I need you to know that they are infinitely more important than the price action on the long term. Literally infinitely more important because they lead to the price action of Bitcoin. So what we're going to do, we're going to spend 5 minutes talking to the chat, and then Kelly and I are going to jump into a conversation about the fundamentals. We got some stuff regarding hash rate. We got some stuff regarding some news, I should say, a little more professional term, huh? Some news regarding what the U.S. Treasury thinks about whether or not Bitcoin is being used for illicit activity. Hint, hint, they finally realized it's not, and their currency, the U.S. dollar, is much more prevalently used for money laundering and illicit activity and other things that I cannot say on YouTube for fear of being demonetized. And we're going to talk about some on-chain as well that leads us to know that the fundamentals are ever improving. So I have a question I want to read from Freedom Advocate. So go to full screen so that I'm not showing much screen here. I'm going to go ahead and read this for you, Kelly. Give me about a 2-minute answer because I want to make sure we have time for some others. Freedom Advocate said, Kelly, when did you start leverage trading? How many years were you in crypto before you started using leverage?
Well, I'm going to give it's a two-part answer. One, before I got into crypto, I was trading on just traditional markets for about 2 years. So that started in actually longer than that, 2013, 2012, 2013. And then that was all spot, which means not leveraged, right? And then in 2016, middle endish of 2016, I got into crypto. And about a year and a half, I would say, a year and a half into that, I started doing the leverage trading.
Well, there you go.
And then immediately pulled back and went back to spot. I said, "Oh, this is too hot for me. I don't have good risk management. I'm losing my money." And then I had to get my stuff together. Get my procedure, my strategy. A strategy isn't just buying and selling. A strategy is the whole picture. How much of your portfolio you're risking? How much you're risking on each trade? Where's your stop losses? What's your risk management? You have to have all that before you can actually be consistently profitable in trading.
Yeah.
And I want to help people with that at some point in the future with the strategy and maybe something's on the horizon.
I think you might be pretty good at that, Kelly. I mean, you've been a trader for a long time. You might have some insight about trading. You just might do it. Yeah. Yeah. So guys, thank you so very much for all the likes. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. We got 1,650 people watching. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. I don't think I've seen any super chats. If I'm missing any, let me know, guys. Tim's not here. He normally does the super chat preparation. Zach, did you see any super chats while we were live? I don't think I saw any, which is totally fine. Jay said what?
Scrolling back just in case.
Jay said, what happened to the Michael Saylor interview? It was yesterday at 1 p.m. and it went really, 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 really well. So Michael Saylor and I talked a lot about physics analogies for what Bitcoin is, why it's important, and why it is perhaps the most revolutionary financial technology that's ever been discovered, and how it's a new paradigm shift in energy. And because I have a background in physics and astrophysics, and his company MicroStrategy works a lot with engineering, we actually had a lot of conversation around engineering. Might seem like it was super high level and it was hard to understand. It's really not. We did talk about it on a deep level from a physics standpoint, but I think it was actually very easy for people to understand what we were talking about. And he actually really liked it. He said he'd love to come back, and he and I talked for about 15, 20 minutes after the interview was over, that's actually a really big deal for somebody who's worth $5 billion to spend 15 minutes that he didn't schedule talking to some guy like me. So we hit it off. I'd love to have Michael Saylor back on the show. And if anybody hasn't followed @Saylor over on Twitter, I think you absolutely should. I don't think I agree with him on every single point, but you don't have to agree with somebody to be friendly and friends with them. So it was good talking to Saylor, and I would love to speak to him again. That will be coming out this Saturday, not tomorrow. I'm talking about a week from tomorrow, excuse me. So I guess that would be next Saturday. Darth Flyer just donated. Said Honduras Bitcoin Twitter. Not sure what you're asking. Is Honduras moving in the direction of adopting Bitcoin? I know we've spoken a little bit about the nation of Honduras before. Not quite sure what we're talking about there, but thank you very much for that donation. Looks like we got a little bit more time here. Did you talk, Jebb, or did Sailors talk for half an hour straight? Yeah, he did talk for half an hour straight. I literally talked for about 2 minutes. He talked for the other 58. That's the way I like to do my interviews, because when you guys are watching an interview with one of these big names, you didn't come to hear me talk. I guided the conversation and, kind of pointed him in certain directions. But for the most part, I just sat there and listened intently because it was a very interesting conversation. So it was mostly Michael Saylor talking. After the recording was over, he and I talked, in a more conversational manner. But I would love to have him back. Very, very, very interesting fella. And I have watched a ton of interviews that he has done to prepare for that. I probably spent like 10 hours watching interviews. So there were plenty of things I was able to quote and that I knew that he already believed. But there are some things that he said and some analogies he used and some explanations he made in the interview that he did with me that I've never heard him say before. So there's some never before seen Michael Saylor opinions in that video that will be coming out tomorrow. So what I want to do now, we're going to go ahead and move forward, and we're going to talk about some of these stories. We are going to start by talking about this article over on Bitcoin Magazine. It's a very, very important one, and it has to do with the U.S. Treasury. U.S. Treasury confirms that we can remove illicit activity from the Bitcoin FUD dice, with the U.S. Treasury recently indicating that Bitcoin and altcoins aren't used for significant illicit activity. It's time to change the narrative. I'm going to run through this relatively quickly so that we can discuss it. The Treasury Department published 3 reports that identified key concerns from money laundering, I can't say that word on YouTube, financing, and weapons proliferation financing. I think I can say that on YouTube. We'll find out if we get demonetized. Here's what each said about the use of cryptocurrencies. In the assessment about money laundering, it says the use of virtual assets, i.e. cryptocurrencies, for money laundering remains far below that of fiat currency and more traditional methods. By the way, normally when you're trying to figure out what is truth and what is not, you go to the biased source and see if they say something that goes against what they believe. When I study the birth and death of Christ, I go and I look at scholars that did not like the Christians and then see what they say, and they still say that he died on the cross. When you go to a biased source, that their bias would lead them to say the opposite, and they actually say the thing that is true. That's very important. The U.S. Treasury Department, more than anyone, would be biased in saying that the use of virtual assets are used for money laundering. They would say that they are more used in money laundering than fiat currencies, but instead they tell the truth and they say the use of virtual assets for money laundering remains far below that of fiat currency and more traditional methods. Their bias is to say the cryptocurrencies are used for money laundering because that gives them more power, but they didn't say that. They said they're a biased source. They said that the use of virtual assets for money laundering remains far below that of fiat currency and more traditional methods. By the way, I'm going to read this line down here right below this after every single one of these quotes. Case closed. Staff of the U.S. Treasury, the authors of the report, are the most knowledgeable and best equipped investigators, and I would say they're biased in the other direction, and enforcers against illicit financing in the world. Moreover, the reports are reviewed by other U.S. government partners, including the DOJ, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, and the FBI. There could not be a more authoritative source to convey these findings. Let's continue. I can't say that word on YouTube. Use of virtual assets appear to remain limited when compared to other financial products and services. The 2022 National, I can't say that on YouTube, Financing Risk Assessment, it says so on page 23. Let me reiterate, there could not be a more authoritative source to convey these findings. Last but not least, there is no evidence that a proliferation network has used a virtual asset to procure a specific proliferation sensitive good or technology. This is talking about other types of cybercrime. Not going to get into too much of what this means, just lumping in with illicit activity. This is from the 2022 National Proliferation Financing Risk Assessment. This has to do with weapons proliferation. Remember, there could not be a more authoritative source to convey these findings, and these reports were reviewed by the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the FBI, all of which are U.S. government institutions and agencies which have a bias in favor of knocking on cryptocurrencies because they want the U.S. dollar to remain supreme. But they still say, truthfully, that Bitcoin is not being used widely in illicit activity. Kelly, can we trust the Department of Justice? Can we trust the Department of Homeland Security? Can we trust the FBI and the U.S. Treasury when they say that Bitcoin is not being predominantly used in illicit activity?
Well, here's what we can trust unquestionably is that Bitcoin is the pinnacle of innovation probably in the last, I don't even know. Definitely this century. It's going to change the course of humanity because of the monetary instrument and that it is. And the fact that it is transparent the blockchain. Every action happens on the blockchain. That's what we can trust. And I did a tweet yesterday after watching this clip that made me just so sad, with Senator Elizabeth Warren, interviewing Jonathan Levine from Chain Analysis. And basically, she's trying to get him to say an answer that pushes her narrative, which is that these Russian oligarchs can skirt sanctions by, divesting their money into multiple different wallets that don't use KYC, and then using some sort of mixer. And he answers every single time. And the second she realizes that it's not necessarily possible, especially if somebody has $1 billion to go and money launder across the, multiple blockchains, because it's all listed in the ledger on every blockchain, and all this stuff is trackable. And that being said, they've also only have around, I think he said somewhere around $20 to $30 million each day that's used within different mixers and stuff like that. So if somebody was divesting $1 billion in cash, there's not enough liquidity to be able to do it. I mean, think about the story we just had. What was it? About a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, with the couple that had all the money from the $3.6 billion hack. And they were able to track that. And they ended up finding it all the way through to even, like, I think, Walmart gift cards, but also through the blockchain, seeing where all these tangled web of transactions happen. So can we trust the Department of Homeland Security and Secret Service and the Treasury? Yes, because they finally have looked at the data versus looked at the fear of ignorance, essentially, is what we've been battling.
And by the way, I'm not saying, I want to be clear on this, I'm not saying that I trust the U.S. Treasury. I'm not saying I trust the Department of Homeland Security or the Department of Justice or the FBI. However, I am trusting them to act in their own interest. And in their own interest, they would say that Bitcoin is used for illicit activity, because that gives them the authority to go and be more policing on it and more authoritarian on it. The reason that I trust their stance on this is because it goes directly against their motives. Their motive would be to say that Bitcoin is used for illicit activity so they can crack down on it and be more authoritarian. Government grows. That's just a fact of nature. Tell me one time that you have ever seen a government start doing something and stop. You know, the federal income tax was supposed to be a temporary measure to fund the Civil War, and it's now 40% for the highest marginal tax bracket, 39.6%, whatever it is for this year. The government does not implement something and then shrink it. Government grows. That's a simple fact of nature. You know, you got death, you got taxes, you got the sun's going to rise tomorrow, and you got the government's going to grow. Those are facts of nature right there. The government is going to grow, and they want to have more influence. So the reason that I trust their opinion on this is because I trust them to act in their own interest, and then their own interest is the opposite. So I just want to be clear on that. It's not that I intrinsically trust these institutions, because to be honest with you, I don't really. That being said, I do also want to make sure you also understand why this is so important. The reason this is so important is because this absolutely, once and for all, categorically refutes one of the biggest arguments that people use against Bitcoin. And they say, oh, well, it's just used for weapons. It's just used for laundering. It's just using for other activity that I can't talk about on YouTube. Who else has the authority to say this other than the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Treasury, the Department of Justice, and the FBI? If they said it, what more do you need to know that Bitcoin is not actually being used for those purposes? This is case closed, shut down. If anybody ever again says that Bitcoin is being predominantly used for that, link them this article, bitcoinmagazine.com/culture/US-treasury-bitcoin-not-illicit. It's a simple fact, case closed, it's done. The reason we're talking about this is because we're talking about long-term fundamentals that lead to the increase in the price of Bitcoin. How many people are now going to read this article and they're going to say, oh, wait a minute, okay, I thought that Bitcoin's being used for illicit activity. It's really not. I guess I'll invest in it. Maybe not many, but the point is this is going to start to help the zeitgeist understand that Bitcoin is not this evil, spooky, boogeyman currency. It is actually a very good thing. It's not a moral thing, but it is a tool that we can use for good for humanity. This is a major fundamental development. This is not small. This is huge. And despite the price action being boring, this is a huge deal that is going to help price action in the long term, because remember what I said earlier. Number one, price can go down 90% and Bitcoin can recover. Why? Because two, the fundamentals are upstream of the technicals. The technicals and the price action did not respond to this news. Within the next 5 years, I guarantee you this will have an impact on the price action, but you got to zoom out. You have to make sure you're not just looking at the price action chart, because you will be like a horse with blinders on and you won't notice that something's coming this way way, and it's going to hit you and blindside you. If you look at the entire perspective, you're going to have a much better chance of running the race to fruition. And when we understand that the fundamentals are upstream of the price action, then the technical analysis can be done in its proper context, which is with a backing of fundamental understanding of the market. Now, there is another thing I want to talk about, and that is hash rate. This is one of the most important on-chain metrics that we have at our disposal. If you don't know what hash rate is, basically it is just the total amount of computational energy that is being used to secure the Bitcoin network. What does that mean? Think about it like this, and we'll give you a very simple analogy. Whenever you are securing the Bitcoin network, you are helping to maintain it. You know how you have to do maintenance on roads? Well, you have to do maintenance on the Bitcoin network. It is a continual expense. In Bitcoin's case, you're not fixing asphalt, you're actually doing something called Bitcoin mining. It is the maintenance activity that allows the system to run. Whenever you are measuring hash rate, let's talk about gold mining, for example. Instead of having 1,000 people mining gold, let's say we now have 2,000 people mining gold. Are we mining more gold? Or is that growth? That is growth, correct? Well, in the hash rate, that's basically the number of computers that are working to secure the network. Whenever that continues to grow, that does not cause Bitcoin to inflate quicker, but it does mean that the network is more secure. It does mean that it's safer. You can almost say it's like, how many soldiers does a nation have? Do they have 1,000, 2,000, 10,000? The more they have, theoretically, the more secure they are, right? In Bitcoin's case, the higher the total hash rate is, typically the stronger the network is, the more secure the network is, and also there is a long-term correlation between hash rate and price. You can see that over the last 3 years, hash rate has been on a continual march to the upside. It hit 179 million terahash per second on May 14th, 2021. Then China banned Bitcoin mining, and it dropped by half down to 86 million. Most of those miners moved to North America. Now North America makes up 44.5% of global Bitcoin mining, and we have seen that metric rise all the way to 200 million. Which is all-time high territory. We hit officially all-time high February 17th of 2022 at 215 million terahash. We're down just a little bit from that, but we're still in all-time high territory. Why is this significant? Well, one of the most important on-chain metrics that we have that drives price action, because remember, fundamentals are upstream of price action, is currently at all-time high, while Bitcoin's price is down 40%. This leads me into one of the final things I want to talk about, which is this concept of the intrinsic value gap. I talked about IVG earlier in the intro to the show. I talked about how that is one of the things that drives long-term price appreciation on Bitcoin. IVG, intrinsic value gap, pretty simple concept. As fundamentals get better, because fundamentals are what drive the intrinsic value of Bitcoin. Intrinsic value you can define as what Bitcoin should be worth based off of the things that actually drive the value of Bitcoin, such as hash rate, such as institutional adoption, such as regulatory clarity, such as retail adoption, such as brand awareness of the Bitcoin name. As those intrinsics continue to grow, and the price continues to move to the downside or stay the same, you get a larger and larger gap. If the intrinsic value is right here and the price of Bitcoin's right here, then the gap is $40,000 tall. If the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is, let's say, instead right here at 178,000 and the actual price action of Bitcoin's right here, the intrinsic value gap's $127,000. This is a concept I've come up with. You can never measure exactly what the intrinsic value is because it's not a number, it's an idea. So you're never going to say the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is $192,714. What you do know for a fact is what the market price, or what the market value of Bitcoin is. Right now it's $40,948.31 on the Brave New Coin Liquid Index. You can't know the exact intrinsic value of Bitcoin, but you can know for a pretty good certainty what the direction of it is. The direction of the intrinsic value of Bitcoin has continued to march higher. How do we know that? Because over the course of the last 10 years, Bitcoin has continued to set higher lows that it has never backtested. You can see it doing over and over and over again in its history. That's because the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is going up. The intrinsic value of Bitcoin is invisible, but make no mistake, it is very real in the same way you can't see air, but without it, you would not be alive. It is absolutely critical for you to understand and breathe this understanding of intrinsic value. The intrinsic value of Bitcoin marches higher. How do we know that? Because the hash rate marches higher, because the regulatory clarity of Bitcoin marches higher, as we talked about earlier, because the miners, as I mentioned earlier, want to bring online more mining, because the amount of people that know about Bitcoin is higher than ever, and because the growth of the industry is marching forward at an ever-increasing velocity. So, my final point here, and I want to hear Kelly's take on all of this, is that Bitcoin's value, its intrinsic value, continues to go higher. Every passing day that Bitcoin stays at this level, the intrinsic value of Bitcoin goes higher. And like a rubber band, the further you pull it and pull it and pull it, now we're not going to talk about if the rubber band breaks, that's not in the analogy, but the further you pull it, the harder it gets to pull it, the more tension there is, the more the rubber band wants to snap back together. That's what happens in the Bitcoin market. As you get farther away from the intrinsic value of what Bitcoin is, what it really should be worth, and the market value is too low, the faster you're going to snap back. Now, this can happen in the other direction too. You can get overextended too. The intrinsic value of Bitcoin was not $20,000 back in 2017. You know how I know that? Because Bitcoin dropped in the span of 63 days, 70%. That's how I know that Bitcoin was overextended to the upside. But I also know that Bitcoin was overextended to the downside in December of 2018 when it got down here to $3,000. How do I know? Because in the next 180 days, it rallied 300%. So we don't know exactly what the intrinsic value is, but we do know it's probably somewhere in between recent price action. I would say in our case right now, we probably should be trading, if we see an influx of retail investment and institutional interest, between $60,000 and $80,000. We are below that, which means the further we go to the downside and the further we trade sideways, the more likely it is that we're going to have a rally as time goes on. It's not to say that we can't go down into the mid-20s. We absolutely can, and frankly, that might happen. But it does mean that the longer this goes on, the more likely it is that we're going to have a rally. Kelly, what do you think about all of that? I mean, I just threw a lot at the audience. It's been a second. What is your take on this idea of the intrinsic value gap? What's your take on the hash rate? What's your take on everything I just covered?
Well, let me dive right on into it. I'm going to pull up my screen real quick. Now, this is going to look fairly crazy at first, but I'm going to adjust it so it makes sense. So there's a lot going on this chart, but what I really want to show right here is, let me see. I think my chart. Oh, my chart must have got messed up. So I'll go on to the next one. Essentially, what I was going to show there is that there is the 200-week moving average. And then also the realized price. But essentially right now, the realized price basis right here is, I mean, we're still sitting up in the 20,000, it's like $24,000 range. So that for me, if we were to fall, I would still be looking at that. The other thing I want to show is this from Willy Woo. This is a stablecoin ratio oscillator. And this shows every time this oscillator gets down to this point, it's right at the same spot where we're having these essentially capitulation events that basically that go capitulation, which is the fall, into accumulation. And we've done that each time, and the accumulation has resulted in upside price action following. Now, these two are a little more speculative, but as you showed here, and I think you brought up, I saw you brought up the hash rate, but this if you think about this, if gold miners go where very professional speculators have done geological surveys, and they see the conditions for probably having a lot of gold, and then you start getting a lot of miners there to mine that gold. So in the case of Bitcoin, these miners, the large majority of them, they have their eye very keenly on the data of what's going on with the market, and therefore they are turning the machines on, and it's still acquiring more machines. They're still acquiring more machines because they see all the data saying this is still going to be something that's going to be driving profit. So therefore we have a lot of miners, and that's where we're getting all this hash rate from. And the last thing I wanted to show is this, this accumulation addresses. If I zoom in on this, this is just, it's been fairly inching up, but this has just gone, basically, it's starting like the beginning of a parabola. And that's right in line with, I think I deleted it. That's right in line with the liquid supply shock ratio, which is just, it's just going to the moon. So all of these fundamental data metrics that we're looking in, that we're correlating with, our trade and investment decisions. These things are saying, regardless of what price action is doing, the price action in the last 6 months has been controlled by a very small percentage of people that are selling. In fact, we had a huge all-time high early 2021 that was driven by retail market and long-term holders that capitulated out. And then we had the next new all-time high, which was actually very surprising, driven only by the strength of holders, because there wasn't any new retail investors coming in. There was just nobody willing to sell. And so these are the metrics you want to see, especially now that number is still getting stronger. There's more, the liquid supply is that strong long-term holder basis growing. So we're stronger than we've ever been. The price action being where it's, we've been consolidating, not only in this last little wedge, but for the last year in a $30,000 range flat. If you zoom out and look at it, not worried about how big that price swing is. We've been in a consolidation phase for a year. And when this when this goes, I hope everybody that is still holding on tightly, because it's going to go.
Yeah, and I think that's what we need to realize, is that it is absolutely critical that we pay attention to price action, because price factors in everything. What price is at its core? Price is the encyclopedia of information. Everything that impacts Bitcoin will go into the price. It just will. You know why? Because how is price affected? Information comes into the mind of a trader. Trader makes an action called buying or selling. When they do that, the price moves. So what happened? The information went through the trader into the price. That's what happened. It could be technical information, it could be on-chain, it could be fundamental, but there's enough traders in the market that if information happens, it's going to impact the traders, and the traders are going to make an impact on the price. So the price is impacted by the information in the industry. At its core, price is the most pure form of informational energy. In the same way we can transact energy in the physical world through hydroelectric power. We can, gravitational or potential energy or kinetic energy or nuclear energy or wind energy or wave energy or solar energy, all these different types of energy. You can also transact energy through electricity. Energy and electricity are not the same thing. Electricity is a form of energy, but there are many types of energy. Electricity is the easiest, most pure conduit of energy. In the same way, in a market, price is the most pure form of informational energy that you can receive. So if you're trying to get the most pure understanding of what's going on in the market, look at the price. However, it is also very helpful to go upstream and look at what's impacting and what is generating that energy, which is impacting the information conduit, which is the price action itself. In the same way, you want to know where your electricity comes from, you don't just say, oh, it just came from somewhere. It just came out of nowhere. That breaks the second law of thermodynamics. That doesn't happen. Electricity comes from somewhere, or else those electrons would not be moving and vibrating and transacting energy. The energy comes from somewhere. It comes from solar panels. It comes from coal-fired power plants. My southern accent's coming out. Nuclear power plants. It comes from somewhere. In the same way, if you want to know where the electricity comes from, you go to its source. If you want to know where the information that is baked into the price action of Bitcoin comes from, you go to its source. What is its source? It's sometimes the price action itself. Sometimes it's just a trader having an emotion as a result of just about anything. Sometimes it's on-chain, sometimes it's fundamental, but whatever it is information that has come into the mind of a trader, and that trader has made a trade. At its core, go back to the fundamentals, go back to the technicals, go back to the on-chain, go back to anything that has any impact on the price action. You'll understand why it's happening. So the core message of this entire stream is stop worrying so much about the price, because the price is the result. If you want a golden egg, you go out and get a golden egg. What, are you just going to buy one at the store? Where do you get that from? You got to go find a golden goose that lays a golden egg. What's the golden goose that lays the golden egg? It's the fundamentals, so go find your golden goose. It's called the fundamentals. Read the news. Do the technical analysis. Do your research. Understand the sentiment, and you will be able to understand what the market is doing and where it will go. Where is the market going to go? I couldn't tell you for certain in the next year, but I can be pretty dang confident that Bitcoin is going to undergo a stupidly large rally in the next 10 years. Why do I know? Because I know the golden goose that produced the last 10 years of Bitcoin's price action. That golden goose is only getting better at laying golden eggs, and it is going to lead to a massive rally in Bitcoin's price action. With all of that said, we are going to go ahead and discuss the HODL trophy. I hope someone in this room has the price numbers.
I do.
You do? Okay, good. Because I didn't
Tim
prepare
sent
for
me
that.
yesterday. Let me see. I got to zoom. Oh, here we go. So, HODL trophy. I was actually on a flight going across the international date line between two different days on Tuesday. So I told him I can't believe that me and Smay would have guessed the same thing. 43,500. That's crazy.
Wait, you both guessed the same thing? Or you would have?
No, never mind. I'm sorry. Smay's guess was high. Smay was at 45,000. Tim's was at 42,000. Jebb, you're at 37,091. And it said for Smay to win, it would have had to be 43,500. And that's funny. That's what I would have guessed. I told them that afterwards, but I wasn't on the stream, so I couldn't get my number in. It's okay. I would have lost that anyway, but we got Jebb to win below 40. So I think Tim wins this one.
Oh. Timothy, he's not even here, so he can't accept the Huddle Trophy, which means that I win by default. No, I'm joking, of course. If he won, he won. So congratulations to you, Tim. You are currently at Universal. If you're wondering where Tim is, I believe he's in Universal. Him and Smay are in Orlando for a theme park. Yes, that is correct. That's where Shannon is also, our Chief Marketing Officer. And they will be back on Monday, I do believe. What we're going to do is we're going to look at some chat, and we're just going to interact with you guys here for a couple minutes, then we're going to wrap it out. But while I look for some good chats to read, Kelly, do you have any final thoughts about all the content that was discussed in this stream?
I have one thing I wanted to share that I wasn't able to, and that is this chart from Plan C, which basically it's called all 4 of the last bottoms. But the thing about these bottoms are, this is an on-chain metric that he has between dormancy flow and the short-term holder cost basis, a multiple of that. The thing about it is, as bullish as I am, I think I'm probably the most bullish on the team. I still think we're going to be, I don't even want to say where I think we're going to be, but it's high. Even when this crosses, there's still all except for the phenomenal flu that we had last year.
The phenomenal flu. That's a new one.
Yeah, that one was called on the day, but every one of the other times, this called it, and it was a few days before, and then the bottom would come in. So with this, what I'm seeing with that, and this ties everything together with all the metrics we saw, it's incredibly bullish with all the on-chain metrics. That doesn't mean that we can't have still a flush out, scare the heck out of everybody in the space, see who really wants to hold on to their coins, see who really deserves the profits. It's those that hold on to their coins, right? We could still get that wick down to 33 or to even down to 26, but I don't expect that we would remain down there long. So I would just say, just look at it more long term.
Yeah, every passing day, I feel like we're getting much closer to that bottom, and I do think that it is going to be coming in sooner than you might expect. Now, I don't necessarily know what the rest of the year is going to look like. I'm not saying we're going to 100K this year. I want to be relatively conservative on that because at the moment, it's very difficult during a major correction to tell where the bottom is going to be. But you can start to get a sense of building tension, like, oh gosh, it just really feels like we're not supposed to be this low. That you get that gut feeling, you get that instinct, you get that intuition, and that's what I'm getting right now, is that gut feeling and that intuition. By the way, guys,
I gotta call one comment out though. I think it's funny. I'm reading through what Jebb responding to Shane Hansen about recording. I don't think he was talking about our show being recorded. He was saying it would be a hoop for Tim and Smay and all them at the theme park having that recorded.
Oh, yeah, no, that would be pretty funny. Tim, Smay, and Shannon at a theme park. They're gonna tear it up out there. That would be really funny. Yeah, the 3 of them, Shannon walking around doing his weird walks, just doing his thing. He's probably gonna be pretty interesting. Yeah, Shannon, those 3 are really funny when they get together.
Technical analysis on whether the roller coaster is going to go up. Or is it going to go down?
Is it going to go up or is it going to go down, or am I going to go flying? It's going to go, hey guys, we're going to go to the moon. The seatbelt wasn't strapped in right. No, but for real, it's quite easy. Freedom Advocate said it's really quite easy. Jebb institutional buyers are set at 32. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Bitcoin going below 30 personally. But guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it out. By the way, I did want to mention today's show is brought to you by 2 different people. It's brought to you by iTrust Capital. If you want to invest in cryptocurrency using your Roth IRA and different kind of retirement accounts, best place in the industry to do it is with iTrust Capital. It's right there in the name. You can trust them. I trust them. We've been working with them for quite some time. I'm working on getting a couple different people, including my parents, into it because they want to get some Bitcoin in their retirement account because you get a tax shelter. So check them out. Links in the description. And also make sure to check out Bitcoin 2022 and get your tickets. Myself, Tim, and Smay are going to be down there. And we are going to be having a grand old time down at Bitcoin 2022. I do believe you get 10% off. Can you run that one more time, Zach, so that they know what that code is? Thank you very, very much. He just got back from Thailand. How was Thailand with the last couple minutes we got here?
Last couple minutes. Thailand was nice. It was nice. It was pretty hot.
Okay.
It's pretty Ron Mak.
You sent us a picture of an elephant. What was the elephant's name?
John.
John?
John Bill.
Did you just make that up?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah,
well, Thailand sounds like it was fun. I've always wanted to go to Thailand. I've had a dream for a long time of going to literally every single country on the entire planet, and that's probably a bad idea because there's some countries you don't really want to visit, but no offense, but just not safe. But I think I'm going to start by trying to go to every single state. I've been to about 26, 27 of them, so I want to go to all of them. Haven't been to Alaska, haven't been to Hawaii, haven't been to California, although that'll probably be the last one. Don't really want to go there, to be honest with you. But
maybe conferences.
The conferences.
Bitcoin conferences.
Yeah, the Bitcoin conferences are going to help us go to some of them. I've been to Colorado, never been to Wyoming, different states like that. Tell us, have you guys been to all 50 states? Kelly, have you been to all 50 states? You should be a traveling musician.
Yeah, I mean, I toured for, we did, you know, like we do like 90 city tours.
Jeez.
And I did that for years. And the only spot I haven't been, I think, is New Hampshire.
So
and I used to live in Hawaii.
So you've been to 49 states except New Hampshire.
Yeah, I've been to Hawaii. I've been to, my aunt used to live in Alaska. You know, so, and I toured around a lot. I can't, there might be one other state, but I can't think of it. It would be way deep Northeast, because that wouldn't be on a tour route.
I got
North Dakota.
That's not Northeast. Yeah,
I've been in-
Northeast state of North Dakota.
I went to North.
No, but I've been to North Dakota when I was in the Air Force.
It's funny. I literally thought the exact same thing, Zach. So don't worry. I literally thought, oh, the Dakotas. He probably hadn't been to one of the Dakotas. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed today's stream, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's see if we can get to 750 likes here in the next couple of minutes. Make sure to stay tuned, because we got some great content coming out next week. Like, we got some stuff coming out next week that we've been working on for over a year. Ooh, not gonna give you too many hints, but we got some really cool stuff coming, and we are so excited for it. We don't know the exact date, but we're looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. Get hyped. You guys are really, really gonna love what's coming. It's gonna be awesome. Make sure that you follow us on social media at CryptoJebb over on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to follow Kelly at Kelly Kellum. Kelly, you can spell that for us real quick over on Twitter.
KELLYKELLAM.
There you go. Boom. Rolls off the tongue. Make sure to go follow him. He's about to hit 10,000 followers, aren't you, Kelly?
I am. Yeah, I just noticed that yesterday.
I noticed that yesterday on the Crypto Spaces.
Yeah, and by the way, you know, Jebb is the CryptoJebb team is you know, we're kind of integrating my Crypto Answered Thursday show that I'm doing along with the CryptoJebb Twitter, because we want to get as many people listening as possible. We're having, you don't understand, like the level of guests we're having on that weekly is incredible.
Yeah, you're getting some great people there.
Like it's blown my mind, and I'd like to get some of them here on the CryptoJebb show as well. You know, have some nice guests pop in here and there. But yeah, everybody, you know, I do want to say thank you, Jebb, for bringing me on so many months ago, and I'm excited to be a part of this incredible team. And it was so fun while I was out there in Tokyo with my wife's family, meeting my extended family, you know, doing all that. And then in the evening, I'd be, you know, live streaming from Tokyo. You know, it's life's pretty fun right now. And I'll be there tomorrow. And I just love everybody that watches every day. And we really appreciate you. And our goal really is just to bring you value. And I hope you see that. And if you don't, I hope you take a deep breath, do a circle around the room, come back and realize that that's really what we're trying to do.
That's exactly right. Well, guys, thank you so very much for tuning in. We're a minute over, but that's okay. Before we go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.